the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar and the Asbury Park Press on January 3rd, 2023, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Roll call, Councilman Brennan?
Here.
Councilman McKinney? Here. Mayor Buckman-Fusco?
Here.
Councilman Rondinero? Here. Councilman Levis?
Here.
Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, first responders, and their families. Okay, workshop. Does anyone have anything they would like to?
I do, Mr. Mayor. If you wouldn't mind. Fred Thierman, who's one of the new Belmar Environmental Commission members, brought up at a meeting that he saw in the Co-Star back in January that Brielle and Maswan offered their residents as a separate agreement between the homeowner and the Carter, the disposal company, the option of having backyard pickup. Basically, they'll come down your driveway, pick up your garbage can, take the garbage out, put the garbage back. At least I assume that's what they're talking about. I spoke with Bill Musto, we talked about it. We haven't heard that that's any kind of thing. But it turns out that Maswan uses Delisa, which is our Carter, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So I would suggest that we look into what would be involved in getting that for Belmar residents. I know that Mr. Thierman is very interested in it, for sure. A couple of parameters would definitely be that it can't be on the taxpayers. It has to be a separate agreement between the property owner and the Carter. And, you know, my questions like, does it have to be 12 months? Or can they only sign up during the season when we would really be interested in making sure that the garbage is taken care of? You know, and how much does it actually cost? I mean, definitely cost is a question. And just thinking we need to see what we can do about looking at. I wondered what the other council members thought about that idea.
It's only for trash pickup you're referring to, Mr.
It's just for trash pickup, unfortunately. No, unfortunately not.
Is there a big demand for people not wanting to bring their cans to the curb?
Well, Mr. Thierman is very interested in it, I can tell you that. I'm curious. I mean, once we find the details, then we let people know, and then we find out.
We do have a lot of residents that are concerned, especially in the summertime, with summer rentals, that people aren't putting their trash to the curb when they should, and that causes issues. So it would be something interesting to look into. Yeah, that was what piqued my interest. Absolutely, is more. I mean, if a homeowner wants that service for themselves, that's great. But I'm thinking more in terms of the summer rentals, and you know, having that option would definitely take some pressure off. You know, for the neighbors, nobody has to worry about whether the garbage is going to get taken in or out. You know, but again, the devil's in the details, and we don't know enough details to really make a decision right now.
Would this be something we're looking at contracting with our current trash supplier to do, or would it be something we'd be doing in-house with DPW?
Well, if Delisa offers the service to other towns, you know, we should entertain their idea of what it's going to do.
You know, like we were talking, I mean, it's really, I think the conversation would be, well, what happens in Venezuela, and what do you do for them, how much do you charge, how does it work? And, you know, if that works for us, that would be simple. You know, would be kind of a no-brainer, but again, it's in the details.
I'll tell you where my real concern is with recycling in the summertime on Monday mornings. Not having that. I've heard from some residents who are interested in possibly having a service that the town could provide to do that, where we would charge a fee to them to be able to do recycling for those specific summer rental properties. That could be an option. Billy, we can talk about it maybe a little more. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's definitely a concern, and I know people are wondering now, like, with recycling pickup being on Thursdays, you know, what's going to happen to those summer properties, and I'd like to make sure that we're on top of it versus doing just sort of a wait and see.
Right. Okay. Well, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Workshop? I'm just going to bring up one thing that that has come up this past week, just to let everybody know. Administrator Kane and Billy Musto have met with Verizon because the issue of the, not the issue, but the whole idea of the 5G towers is now back. So they're looking to place them along the beach. Just a brief summary, if you don't remember, there was a consent order issued by the court, I think it was back in August or May, and basically says that Verizon has the right to put 20 towers along Ocean Avenue, basically every block, and there's very little really that we as a municipality can do to stop that. But I think the purpose of the meeting was to just look at where they could place them, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to let you know, if you see people up there over the next few weeks, you know, it's probably due to that. I know that our engineer, Jim Morris and Kevin have been looking at possibly trying to make it so that it doesn't look as terrible as it's going to look. Because the poles are like 35 feet high. They want to put them at the end of the street, you know, so when you're going up like the street and you get to the boardwalk and that's the entrance to the boardwalk. The plan initially, I think, from them was to put them right there in that area right before the boardwalk. And you can let me know if I'm wrong or you guys were there. And they're big poles. I mean, it's not like a street lamp. And again, it's going to really, I think, destroy the view and the nice beach that we have, you know, in the front. Because you're going to then go down Ocean Avenue, you're going to see our street lights, you know, and then you're going to see these mega, you know, towers on each block going down. So it's not a good situation in terms of, you know, how the beach looks, but I think we're trying to work with them to come up with some kind of an alternate plan. My alternate plan would be just to tell them to go away, but we can't do that because unfortunately the FCC and these companies are, well, let's say the FCC says they can pretty much do whatever they want in terms of the placement of the poles. That's one of the things that's, you know, on the drawing board right now for the beach. The other, I don't think we've heard anything more from DEP about the bathrooms. And just a personal note, I find it kind of ironic, you know. We need the DEP to tell us we can't put the bathrooms on the beach because we have permanent slabs of concrete on every block. But Verizon can put 35-foot towers on the beach, and there's really nothing we can do about it. You know, so it's like, you know, the federal government tells us one thing, you know, the state government tells us the other thing, and we're supposed to open up a beach for, you know, the residents to enjoy under the public trust doctrine. So, you know, it's kind of like we're caught in the middle, but I think we're all doing the best we can. So we'll keep you posted on the 5G issue. If anyone has any ideas, I'm open to meeting with them and talking to them about it. I've looked high and low, you know, on the internet and whatever, and we are not unique. This has been going on throughout the whole country. Poles show up in front of historic buildings. One person had a beautiful catering hall where people take pictures out in front of the building, and they put a pole right at the end of the entrance to the building. So I mean, it's going on and on and on throughout the country, and I haven't really come across anyone who's been successful in trying to get them to either not put them up or to, you know, move them. We might be able to move them a little bit, but that's where we're at. So we'll keep you posted on that.
I have a question about that. Is it going to be, it's not going to be just Belmar though, it's going to be from all the way down to where?
No, right now, it's just Belmar as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if
Oh,
any other
really?
municipalities have that.
It's not going to be Avon and Spring Lake and all the way, oh.
Yeah. what they did was they looked at the nicest beach along in Monmouth County, and they said, how can we destroy this beach? And they said, we'll put 20 poles here, because everybody on the beach, you know, needs 5G service. You know, they're not here to go in the water, they're not here to go play in the sand, they're not here to get sunburned. No, they want to get on the beach, and they want to start streaming things that they can't already stream under 4G. But, and, you know, the reason for 20 poles, for me, is you know, it's overkill, I think. And, you know, just so you know, 5G doesn't go through walls. So, you know, like if you're in your house, you know, or in your car, you know, you're not going to get 5G service. If you're on the other side of the Taylor Pavilion, you know, you're probably not going to get the full service as you would as if you're on, you know, out on the sand. And they also have a pole that they want to put right in front of the Taylor Pavilion, according to the plan. And you know, I'm kind of determined not to have them do that. So if you get a call from me for bail money at some point, you know, I'll appreciate it if you can come and bail me out, because I think that will just destroy the entire look of, you know, our Silver Lake and our pavilion, and all we need is a Verizon tower right in front of it, you know. But that's where we're at, and you know, there's more I think that we'll have to say about it. But you know, again, you know, if you have any ideas, you know, I'm open to meeting with anybody who might have something unique on this. Anything else? I guess that's it. Petitions. Do you have any petitions?
No, I did not receive any.
Okay. Approval of minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 14th meeting?
Make the motion.
Second. Councilman Brennan?
Yes?
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosanero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, reports of council. Council President Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Two reports. The Harbor Commission, the regular scheduled meeting was last Tuesday, but there was no quorum. And they had some important business they wanted to take care of, so they rescheduled for last night, and I was able to attend that. The biggest thing, I'm very happy to report, I mean, the Harbor Commission is very concerned about a couple of things. There are some repairs that need to be made. In particular, we have some damaged pilings that are definitely going to be repaired. There are some that need to be moved to reconfigure a couple of the rental slips for the large party boats. And we also have some that were damaged by boating accidents, which theoretically we would be reimbursed by the boat owner's insurance company, but we can't wait for that. A couple of the pilings that are broken are ones that have turned the slip. You might know about this. We have as-is slips that are leased for low cost. And a couple of those are simply like that because the piling is damaged. If we replace the piling, we can charge full price, yes. So there's been a lot of back and forth. I'm very happy to see the engineer is communicating very well and is very supportive of the project. And I'm going to defer to the business administrator and the mayor as far as when we're going to move on some of these. But the piling thing seems to be the first thing to do, and absolutely, and the one that would be probably the most cost effective because it would give us those extra revenues off of those slips that are not being charged full price right now. We need to look at the fuel dock. The fuel dock needs to be replaced. It's a floating concrete dock, and some of the concrete encases plastic buoys, I guess you call them that, they're floats underneath the dock. And on our fuel dock, some of the concrete is already deteriorated, it's fallen off. So at some point, I mean, it's not an emergency yet, but it could be. And that's definitely going to be something we need to look at. There's electric that has to be done, but that's already in the works. And the other thing they're looking at is dredging. We need to dredge our marina. When the dredging was done a couple of years ago, that was really just the channel, and not even the entire channel. It's like the navigable federal channels, state channels were done. Our slips, some of our slips, we can't charge full price because they're shoaled in, and we could definitely fix that with dredging. they were discussing something, I didn't get all the details, but at Spring Lake, they had some kind of little dredge that they're using themselves on their little lake. And I don't know if that's feasible for us, but we need to find out more about it. That's it. They're also going to, I've already seen the emails, but one of the things, the other thing is the fuel dock doesn't take cash. It's a credit card thing, and there's going to be a fee. There's a credit card fee. Every year, the Harbor Commission tries to figure out what's the appropriate charge for that credit card fee, and we keep missing. We keep shooting too low. So what they're going to recommend is a 3% credit card fee, 3% charge on all that. It might be a little high for some of the buyers, depending on the card you use, but in general, it's probably the safest number. And it's something I think people are used to seeing, so I don't think you're going to have a lot of pushback on that. The other thing I wanted to report about for the Environmental Commission, you guys know that I'm very concerned about, we tried hard to get some plants to grow along the boardwalk. In some places we've been very successful, in others not so much. And as I've been walking along, I try to go, you won't see any growth this soon, it's too early right now. But I like to walk along and see what's still there and what's not. And one of the things, I spoke to Bill Mustow, one of the things I noticed is some of the snow fences, which is definitely going to be serviced, it's too soon yet, but there are places there are big gaps in the snow fence, and you can see where people, especially if the sand's a little high, they're walking right across the sand, jumping over the snow fence right onto the beach. It's not that big of a deal now, but in the summertime we can't let that happen. And the other thing I noticed, and we're going to see what we can do about it, is there are several blocks that have no stay off the dune signs in there at all. There's other places that are very visible, and I think they're a huge help. But especially at the south end of town, there are several blocks that don't have anything. And I think, you know, to protect the dunes, we need to post the signage at least to make it clear to people that please don't walk on these. If we can get something to grow, I mean, sooner or later, my feeling is everything that's got planted in there, it's going to, whatever's still there is still going to grow. And if we didn't plant anything, something would grow, because there's weeds growing everywhere if you don't do anything with it. Any kind of vegetation growing in that sand is a help, because the roots from the sand, roots of the plants will help keep the sand in place in case there's any kind of velocity action from the water. The understanding is all those plants that we planted, we have to be ready to see them just go. I mean, the idea is they're supposed to be there, and we sacrifice them if there's some kind of event where the wave action comes up and it starts to pound on the boardwalk. We want the plants in the sand to take the brunt of that rather than the boardwalk itself. So I think some signage and some repairs, you know, which are coming, are perfect. And I'm really encouraged with that. And that's my report. Thank you.
I just have a question on the dunes. Are those dunes protected by the DEP? Are there things that we can and cannot do in that area?
As far as I know,
Those dunes are protected by the DEP, we're not allowed to touch them.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, they have
We
to
can't,
stay there.
we can't change them, we can't alter them,
we can plant.
No, you can plant.
we can plant, yeah.
You
We can't take anything
You can't
out.
move the sand. You can't move that sand out of there.
Right.
You know, it would be helpful. I mean, the ironic thing is, if we had been able to start doing this planting right after Sandy, a year or two right after, when the sand was still 4 feet below the top of the boardwalk, it would be really, really well protected by this point. But unfortunately, we didn't do that. And as time comes on, you've all seen it, the wind and the water manage to pile the sand up. It does whatever it wants to do. And planting plants on top of that isn't really going to give us what we need. It's not going to give us the protection we need. And it would be better if we could just shovel the sand onto the other side of the snow fence, but we can't. We just can't do it. So we're just going to do the best we can, and that's really kind of how I see it. And I think, you know, Mother Nature's going to do what she's going to do too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman McKinney?
Thank you so much, Mayor. A couple things. Belmar Recreation, the Easter egg hunt this past Saturday was rescheduled due to rain to this coming Saturday. That is a little weather dependent too. If it's not great weather, something will be posted on Friday night saying whether it's going to be moved to a different time or to Sunday. But as of now, it's scheduled for 11 a.m. sharp on the beach on Saturday, the 1st. It's broken down into divisions. There's a golden egg in every division with a big prize. So bring your kids down to the Easter egg hunt. The fitness classes, the yoga, the mahjong, the game days, all happening and working well in Taylor Pavilion. The summer camp registration, just another reminder, is full summer camp, which is great, and they're still looking for camp counselors. You must be a minimum of 16 years old, and they need counselors for summer camp. Quick note about the skate park. At the last meeting, we were able to secure someone who was going to design the park. So we had the platform group who came and brought us just renderings of what they thought the park should look like back in the fall. That same group is going to actually design a little bit more specific plans that we can use to then bring to an architect/engineer to get sealed plans to move forward with the skate park. So we're getting there. The next process is the design. Everybody's really excited to see what we come up with, and hopefully we have something soon with that. The ADA, the next ADA meeting is going to be the end of the month, April 27th. Shade Tree Commission, their next meeting is actually March 20, it's tonight actually. But they're going to be moving Shade Tree Commission meetings to the second Thursday of every month. So that will be I think the second Thursday is the 11th and the 12th next month. A couple quick things around the schools. The grammar school and the high school are on spring break from April 6th to the 16th. Lots of class trips happening in the grammar school. And April 27th is the Daddy-Daughter Dance in the St. Rose Grammar School. And the high school officially kicked off all their spring sports. The principal said he wanted to welcome everybody from the Belmar community out to the Fletcher Fields, which is on Hurley Pond Road, out that way, so that you could check out all the schedules and come to their great sports happening this spring. The St. Rose High School Theater Company is Godspell at Spring Lake Theater, April 21st to the 23rd. Ticket information is on the St. Rose High School website. And then this Sunday, the St. Rose High School fundraiser, it's Runway for Roses. It's a fashion show and gift auction this Sunday from 2 to 4. Doors open at 1:30. Tickets are $20 in advance, $25 at the door. And Belmar Elementary, all I have for them is they are on spring break April 7th to the 16th. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rondinaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Belmar Library has continued to knock it out of the park with their community events. Congratulations to the winners and all who participated in the Irish Soda Bread Contest. Louis Polito did a great job coordinating this very well-attended event. The library continues its Tech Thursday series for adults and seniors at 3:15 in the lower level media room. Fridays, beginning April 7th at 10 a.m., the library will be hosting a Tai Chi and Qigong program with Melinda Applegate, so that's exciting. There's also a special author time event featuring the Venerable Bhajanti Sujatha, the Loving Kindness Monk, on May 2nd at 12:30. In this workshop, Bhajanti, a Buddhist monk, will introduce the practice of loving kindness and guide a brief meditation through his technique. And lastly, the Cinco de Mayo will be celebrated on May 4th at 5:30 at the Taylor Pavilion. Please join us to learn about the history of Cinco de Mayo, enjoy food by Cholito Lindo, and music by Mariachi Nuevo Mexico. If you're interested in attending, please register on the library website. The event will be posted on Facebook and on the website. They are filling up, so when you see these events, definitely register for them now at the library. I'd like to thank DJs again and all the bands that played for the piano for Piano Plaza fundraiser last Saturday. That was pretty amazing. I'm happy to announce that Belmar will be home to another Ukrainian refugee family. Sponsored by John and Pat Hutchinson, the Nashkovs will be flying in and joining our community April 5th. I was present at an event on Sunday to gather gift cards for this family to help with expenses, and it is very heartwarming to see such support and generosity in our community. If you'd like to help out or you have any questions, you can reach Patton Hutch at patnhutch519@gmail.com, and that's N like the letter. And then the next Housing Authority meeting is next Monday, April 3rd at 5:15. As you can see in the agenda, we have a resolution to support Congressman Chris Smith in his efforts to obtain funding from HUD for the needed renovations at the Belmar Housing Authority. I'd like to thank Congressman Smith. The Congressman and his office have been advocating for the BHA since Executive Director Paul DeSantis reached out about the deterioration in October. On March 7th, Mr. DeSantis and I drafted an official funding request for $676,000, mainly focused on renovation to the facade of the building and modernizing the elevator to bring it to code. My attention has been focused on this, coordinating and gathering letters of support for this project. I'd like to thank those who have submitted letters: the Belmar Housing Authority, the Mayor and Council, Senator Singer, Assemblyman Thompson, and Assemblyman Keene. We have a nonprofit letters of support from the Belmar Women's Club, the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh, Circle of Friends, and Belmar Cares. There are many competing funding requests for the Congressman's community project funding, and only 8 will be chosen. I know this renovation project, the building and its residents, are important to the Senator. I should know by the end of this week if our project was selected. We can all agree that our residents deserve safe housing, and along with the Congressman, I will continue to advocate for this project until it is completed. That's all I have.
Thank you. Congressman. Councilman. That's next year. Councilman Levis.
I'm not even going to go there. Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo Councilman Brennan's report on the Harbor Commission. That's exactly what we've been trying to do in terms of the dredging, in terms of the fuel dock, in terms of the pilings. I think we're making some good progress, and we're going to see a lot in the coming months in terms of getting some of those projects off the ground. So I'm happy to see that. The only other thing I have to report is the Friends of Belmar Harbor. If no one's familiar with them, they run the sailboats that you see down at the L Street Beach there. They have sign-ups starting now for the sailing classes for ages 9 to 16. And then they have an adventure camp, which has some sailing but also teaches marine science and lets the kids go down and do some crabbing and some fishing, and it's a great time, it's a good experience, and that's for ages 7 to 12. Information for that can be found at fobhnj.org. It's a good program, it's local, it's a real good chance for the kids to get out and see and explore the Shark River estuary that's around them. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else to report, so we should move on to public session for the resolutions.
If anyone would like to speak on one of the resolutions, please step forward, state your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Mayor, I have a question about 2023-89. This is a resolution appointing a fair share housing planner and entering it into a contract. Can you please explain what your fair share housing planner and what you intend to do with this?
Sure. The Fair Share Housing Planner is, and you can interrupt me anytime you want, but it's needed to have the borough create a plan that needs to go before the court to create our fair share housing. We have one right now, but it's old and it's dated. So this person will be basically doing that job, working off of the old one and creating a new one. And now I'll defer to my colleagues and see if they have anything to add to that.
Mayor, I think maybe it was last month we actually appointed the attorneys to file an action on behalf of Belmar, because the Belmar has a constitutional obligation to provide its fair share of housing. I think we all understand that by now. We are up to the 3rd round of the housing obligation. Belmar was participating with COA when COA was actually functioning. And that was back in 2006, 2008, 2010 came along, and our plan was insufficient because the guidelines that COA had established back then were vacated by the court. So then we went into the whole process of what are we going to do with every other town. And what happened was the courts took over, and COA was eliminated. So to actually have your plan approved, you have to go to the court, and that's what we're doing. And because our old plan was formulated under the methodologies that were invalidated, we have to have a new plan. So to have a new plan, we have to have a planner. We have to hire a planner to prepare this plan. And Avakian, who is already under contract with Belmar as a special engineer, providing services to us as floodplain management manager as well. Excuse me. But not only that, they have planners who are proven in the area of fair share housing. It's litigation because it's in court, but it's in court because it has to be. We used to be able to apply to COA, but now we can't. We have to be in court. So to go along with our action to obtain substantial certification so that we comply with the law, we need to do this plan. We needed a planner. And Avakian, who is one of our engineers, also, as I said, is well-versed, proficient in this area, so that's what we're doing.
And you will use Avakian's planner. I know them, they're really good.
Yeah, no, it's Avakian and Jen Beam
Yeah.
as the planner, and I've worked with Jen Beam in Manasquan and other places, and she has Christine Bell as well.
Right.
Yeah, they'll be providing the services to us for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Kramer?
Gene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. I just wanted to follow up on that. In August of 2019, the borough passed Chapter 42, and that was to establish affordable housing development fees. And actually, ever since then, I've been questioned a number of times at public meetings here as to when those fees were actually going to be collected. It was my understanding back in August of 2019, the purpose of establishing the collection of these affordable housing development fees was to prepare the borough attorney going forward if we had to get involved in negotiation as to in getting an approved plan. I guess I'm still asking the question is, it's my understanding that last time that I brought this up that there has been no fees collected. This goes back to August of 2019, and the last time, and this is the one that's tied to the tax assessor in town, that a portion of when anybody does improvement to a property, that they're supposed to pay into this fund. And this was discussed as perhaps one of the best tools that could be used if the borough has to defend its affordable housing plan. I guess really what we have to be concerned about here is what you read about in the newspaper every week, is that you have a developer come in. If a town's not in compliance, you have a developer comes in and it's called builder's remedy, okay? And then the town would be put in a position of having to defend itself if we don't have an approved plan or a substantially approved plan. But I'm very disappointed that, to the best of my knowledge, there has been no collection of these monies. And we're not living up to our own ordinance that already has been passed here. Now, if I'm wrong about that, please advise me.
I don't think you're particularly wrong about that. I don't know if anything has been collected, but it's my understanding that that ordinance needs to be approved as part of a plan. That is something that we're doing right now, and we're actually fast tracking that so that we can get that ordinance in place and start doing what it allows us to do. So that's my understanding of it. So I don't think you're wrong.
Okay, and I just, you mentioned Christine Bell. She was the borough planner back in 2019. And in other words, she has her eyes wide open, and perhaps was even one of the people that had recommended this development fee ordinance. Like I said, I think the last time I brought this up, it became effective in August of 2019. And last time I checked, and I opened a request for the number of properties where the tax assessor had raised residential properties in town. And at that time, there were 616 properties that the bulk of them would have to pay into this fund, the establishment of a trust fund. Certainly it's better, let me put it this way, the longer this collection of these fees the longer this can is kicked down the road, it's going to get more difficult to collect that money.
Well, I think we stopped kicking the can, so that's where we're at.
Okay. I guess we can anticipate that someday we may actually see that the trust fund is actually being funded.
I would hope so, yes.
Yeah. It's especially hard in the beginning because there is some grandfathering in there. In other words, if somebody had a building permit before August of 2019 or a land use approval before August of 2019, they can grandfather out of that. But somewhere along the way, we should be seeing in town here, at least with residential property, a constant revenue stream, because there's always residential development going on in Belmar. I don't know that much about the redevelopment zones and so on, but this is 3+ years now that I don't see any trust fund established. And also, I think with the establishment of the trust fund, you're probably going to have to establish some sort of commission or group that's going to administer that trust fund. I know that before any funds can be dispersed from the trust fund, they have to be approved by the Department of Community Affairs. It's my understanding, yes, COA is no longer in existence, but most of it's not all in the courts that the Department of Community Affairs has oversight of what the municipality does.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that either.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to mention that because we have a sleeping dog here that, unless we start collecting the money, it's going to get more and more difficult. In fact, I know for a fact a number of these properties have already changed titles. People that it's going to end up with the property owner today. That's it. Thank you.
Actually, now I have a question. From Mr. McGill. I'm looking, I'm not reading my phone, I'm sending text. I'm looking at our ordinances, and I do notice that chapter 42, section 2, basically says the chapter shall not be effective until approved by the department pursuant to NJSC 596 5.1, and then the note says that the provisions of that NJAC expired on 6/2/2015. So is it?
Right, that's why it's in court.
But I mean, is it basically saying then that this chapter 42 that is on the books is basically moot at this point? I mean, there's nothing.
It's waiting to be activated.
But there's nothing here in 42 that we can actually do at this point because it hasn't been approved.
Right, right, and that's part of what's going on in the court right now. That's part of the relief that we requested that the court grant, and I understand that we could actually have that fast tracked with the consent of
Right.
Fair Share Housing Center.
But I mean, in terms of like the development fees that
Right.
Mr. Green was talking about, we can't collect those because it hasn't been approved yet.
Right.
Right? Okay. But we should keep this on the books, this ordinance?
Yes,
For
we
the
need
time
to,
being?
actually.
Okay.
We need to have that. That's
Okay,
part of
just-
our plan going forward.
I got you. I just didn't, it was a little confusing because it's there,
Right.
but, it's like waiting to be activated at this point.
We're not the only ones, though.
Oh, I understand.
I come across that ordinance, it's not
Standard.
actually very unique, and it's written that way.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Excuse me, can I ask another question about that? You say we can't, by the way, I did not see anything in our borough ordinance that says that we cannot collect those fees. Okay, yeah, I did not see that explicitly there. In fact, it directed, our ordinance directed the chief financial officer to establish that trust fund.
It's subject to the NJAC site, which actually I believe is a COA site, which actually isn't in effect at the moment. So it's...
Yeah, but there's nothing stopping the municipality from collecting the fees. In other words, if this goes into court for 10 years or something, what are we going to do? Go back to all these properties and try to collect the money at that time?
So all the COA function is now in court, so that would actually be a COA function, so that's why it's in court, looking for that approval.
Do we have any idea of,
Well, the only thing I can say is the process itself could take a number of years, maybe 2 years or so. However, that portion of it, we are trying to, and I'm using the word that was given to me, fast track that through the court by consent. So at the end of the day, we'll have an approved plan after we do whatever we have to do, but nobody's disagreeing with the value of this ordinance. So nobody wants to get in our way with that ordinance. That's a good thing. Everybody agrees with that. So we're trying to get that done quickly so that we can have this ordinance in effect.
Yeah, but I don't see any objection or have heard anything that would stop the municipality from collecting the affordable housing development fees, because it's supposed to be deposited into a trust fund that's interest-bearing. In other words, certainly the expenditure of the funds is subject to the Department of Community Affairs oversight, but not the collection of the fees themselves.
Yeah, I think the answer that I'm trying to give is that we can't collect money under the ordinance until it's approved. It references approval by COA. COA doesn't exist, so the approval is through the court. So we can't do anything until this ordinance is approved, and that's what we're trying to do. So there's a reference in the ordinance that the mayor read. Now, I'm trying to pull it up, but I waste my time trying to pull it up on my screen. that makes our ordinance subject to. And that subject to, that was put on the books in 2019. COA didn't exist in 2019, so the subject to automatically made that ordinance dormant, for lack of a better word. I think that's a good word, actually. So we're trying to activate it at the moment. So if there, and I don't know if any monies were collected. You seem to think that they were not, and I don't disagree with that. But that's what I'm trying to say. We're trying to get this. You're telling me that there's nothing to stop it. I'm telling you that it's not authorized yet, so it's essentially not in effect. That's the best I can do.
I was going to say that we collect fees all the time.
Yeah, but they're not subject to that condition, right? I mean, we can charge fees. There's statutes that say we can charge fees. This one says it has to be subject to approval. The others don't.
Okay, everybody's clear on that now, right? Any other questions, comments?
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have one resolution we'll do first is Resolution 2023-81, a resolution authorizing the introduction of the 2023 municipal budget. We have a motion to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckles?
Yes.
Councilwoman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next, can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
Motion?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckles?
Yes.
Councilwoman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Last item we have is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2023-5. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 3, Tourism Development Fees. This is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address. All right, seeing none, can I have a motion?
Wait.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue. Okay, this is ordinance 2023-05. It appears to me that you want to, the mayor and council want to establish a tourism fee assessment, a flat $200
Correct.
among all categories of mercantile licensees.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Mercantile licenses are required for all businesses within town which either sell goods or services. Does that mean that a medical services business has to pay a tourism fee? Does that mean a legal services business in Belmar has to pay a tourism fee assessment?
The professional offices only pay for a fire inspection. They don't pay a mercantile license fee, so therefore they don't pay the tourism either.
Okay. Now you're deleting a table of businesses which appear to be, they were selected because they benefit by tourism to the town. Do you really want to delete that table of businesses that benefit from tourism, or do you really just want to change the price of the assessment?
Well, I mean, I think the reason why it's deleted is because there's no need to make the distinction anymore between, for example, you know, the rental with 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms as opposed to the, you know, the retail establishment, takeout food establishment. The state statute just permits a borough or us to set an additional assessment of a maximum of $200. So there really is no need. These categories will all be included in the 200 because they are the businesses that pay a mercantile license fee. So essentially, the way it works is if you're paying the mercantile license fee, then you're going to be assessed the $200. Is that correct? That's pretty much, I mean, so there's really no need to make, the reason why it was put in a chart was because there was an attempt to have different types of businesses pay different amounts of money, and that's not permitted by the state statute. That's why it's being changed.
Yeah, I guess where I'm still kind of missing it here is my understanding that in the borough of Belmar, if you sold goods or services, that you required a mercantile license. You know what I'm saying here is, I mean, would Family Dollar be included in this?
Yes.
They would be. Okay. The bicycle rental place, they would be. The arcade.
Yes. The only ones that are excluded are the professional offices.
Okay.
So everybody on that chart is still would pay the fee. It's just they're all paying the same $200.
Fine. Has anybody run an estimate as to how many $200 fees? Apparently, according to the old ordinance, the tourism assessment only applied to these listed businesses. We have a lot more businesses than that here.
I can't tell you why only these businesses were selected for the prior ordinance, but I think we did do I don't have it in front of me, but we did do a spreadsheet of the number of businesses that would be affected by the new ordinance and potentially how much money would be collected from the $200 assessment. But I can't answer why some of those other types of businesses weren't included here unless there was a catch-all, which I don't think there really was in the ordinance.
No, it's the mercantile licenses.
Yeah.
We don't spell out everything that's included.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it looks like from the categories that there might be some missing, like some people.
Well, in mercantile is all of the businesses
Right.
except for, the hotels and motels and the bed and breakfast. We consider, they don't have a mercantile license, they have a rooming house license. They pay that. Taxi licenses are a taxi license. And so mercantiles are all the businesses that aren't a rooming house, a professional office, or a taxi, or those other categories.
In other words, Belmar Window Shop would pay a tourism assessment. I just think that's a stretch, and a burden to business. Likewise, it looks like the taxi driver license is going from $100 to $200. That's not the taxi company. That's the driver, right?
Correct. And if I might say, I think this is actually the way it was prior to the amendment, which created all these different categories. I think the prior legislation, the prior ordinance basically said $200 assessment. So
It was
it
$100.
was 100. So we're pretty much going back to the way it was, but we're increasing it pursuant to the state ordinance that says it can't exceed $200.
Some of those businesses on that list are going to pay less than they paid last year. A lot of them. They're going to pay a lot less. So.
Mayor, I remember having an issue with this ordinance changing right after COVID. It felt like it was a hit to those Belmar businesses, especially who went up from paying $100 to $1,000 or $500. And now I'm seeing that that you're making it $200, but that is because what was happening before was not correct under state statute. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not like we're doing this, because we think $200 is, a fair number. It's the state statute says, there's very little that a municipality can do on its own. All of our authority comes through the state. So this is a perfect example. We can charge an additional assessment, and the statute says you can't exceed $200. So that's what we've done. So there's no subjective criteria or anything going on there. We're just following the state statute.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the taxi business here, especially with,
everybody calling on the phone for a lift or
Right.
whatever. Okay. What's the distinction here with the taxi? In other words, are these taxis that are allowed to be parked
in certain places in town for pickup, or
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that because I'd have to take a look at the taxi ordinance or whatever.
We're not trying to address that with this ordinance.
Yeah. I don't know what the rules are in terms of pickup and drop-offs for taxis.
If you are a licensed Belmar taxi company, you can pick someone up off the street. If you're not licensed, you come into town, you can't just grab someone that flags you down. You have to be called to come in and pick someone up. So that's the difference.
okay, so these are the taxis that we see parked up by the train station or
Right.
At DJs or something, if we do have pickups there.
Right.
Okay.
Mayor, the ordinance does have it does seem to have a catch-all. It says mercantile license for retail establishments, and it includes and takeout food establishments, but it does say retail establishments, so anything that might be retail is included.
Okay.
And I think it was the procedure, the policy that everybody, except professional offices for some reason, I don't know. But everybody else paid the fee, and it was $250, so they're actually going to be decreased.
Right.
Okay.
Okay? All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-5?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buskowski?
Yes.
Councilman Rondinero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next is public session. If anyone would like to speak, please step forward, state your name and address.
Claire Hayner, 18th and B. Good evening, everybody. I want to go back to last meeting. All right. What I normally do is take a look at the agenda, and then I say, okay, I want to maybe mention something about this or that. And then I got sidetracked, did something, came back to the agenda, and I said, what happened to the grant writer thing that was on here, the resolution? And I sent April an email, and I said, am I losing it? Like, was that there, and I can't see it, or what's going on? She said, no, we pulled it from the agenda. I said, okay, fine. And if you recall, it was raining, it was snowing and everything, so I decided to watch it on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, that resolution got put back on the agenda. Okay, it was motion to get put back on, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against grant writing and everything, but at the same point in time, I would have come to the meeting to ask my question, and my basic question then was, didn't we used to have a grant writer, which is, I don't know if we did or not, but I know we got grants before, so.
I don't know if we had one.
No, I think I can answer that. So we had a resolution on the agenda to hire a grant service. We pulled that resolution because we realized it's not technically a professional service. So we can't just hire them without going out for public bid. So then we made a resolution to create an RFP so it would go out for public bid.
Right, you made that at the meeting, that wasn't on the agenda.
It was not on the agenda, it was,
Right, and my only concern is that maybe if something gets, an agenda gets published, something gets pulled for rightfully so reasons, you know, like either pull it at the meeting or don't publish it, or if it's published, pull it, publish a new one, but don't introduce that same one again at the meeting with no notice to anybody, that's all.
Well,
it was not the same, it was not the same resolution.
Same concept.
We were looking for the same services, but we can't.
You need the RFP,
Right, we need the
yeah.
RFP, and that's really the
Yeah.
only difference. We're looking for the same services because we definitely think we could use it.
Right, but I would have thought that that would have been brought up at this meeting to go forward with that, rather than,
Well, it was just that the mayor and council authorized us to actually prepare the RFPs. The first resolution was to hire, so we'll have a resolution to hire if we determine that somebody that responds to the RFP is acceptable to us.
okay.
So that was my idea, because I wanted to save time, I wanted to get the authorization to do it. That night, we were going to hire, but I think it was the CFO correctly pointed out that we needed to go to RFPs on that. I looked that up, she was correct, so I suggested put a different resolution on authorizing us to prepare RFPs, and that's all that was. And I didn't think that was a big deal. I apologize to you that that happened. I see your point, but at the time I thought we could save some time by doing that rather than waiting to the next meeting. And I didn't think that the authorization was such a, issue.
Don't get me wrong, I don't go into detail like Mr. Kramer does here, but that just caught me. It's just like, hey, wait a minute.
It's very unusual.
Yeah,
Really,
you
that
know,
we
like,
do
why are we
that.
doing this at that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was.
I could go into the crosswires that we had on that, but there was definite crosswires on it, so I know the mayor was looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
And,
I never
I played it back 3 times.
and when he looked at me like that, I was wondering what I was talking about, but, yeah, so that's
Okay.
what happened.
Second thing, one of my neighbors in Lake Como said to me, hey, the sign was taken down over where the new first aid service was going to be.
You mean the banner on the fence?
Yeah.
It was making the fence blow down.
Okay, so no big change on that then. Okay, that's cool. Third thing, Mark, you mentioned today about recycling on Mondays and the group rentals, which was mentioned back in January. And I was told that that was shut down, that the town was not going to do that. You guys?
Do what? What was that? I missed.
Back when, okay, the owners used to pay a fee to the town would pick the recycling up on a Monday, when we used to have it on the other days.
For the rentals.
For the rentals, okay? And then it was mentioned, and nothing happened, and then I brought it up again, and I was told, no, that's not going to happen. So is that now still a possibility that it will happen?
So I brought this up at workshop just so the council could have an opportunity to sort of decide. It's something that, if we want to go forward, I'll talk to Kevin Kane, I'll talk to Billy and see what the possibility is of doing it. I'm not going to make any promises, obviously it's a council decision whether it happens, but it's something I want to look into so that if we do run into a situation where we have, heaps of recycling left out on Monday night, we have a plan in place to take care of it. So we're not just issuing a fine and there's still a heap of garbage. Maybe we're issuing a fine and then hauling away that garbage. These are all things that there's no council decision. This was just an idea I had in my head to bring up for workshop. So
Okay.
it's only my idea at this point.
Well, it's a good idea.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a good idea because, I live on 18th and B, so I've got a lot of rentals around us. But, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. I wanted to follow up and see if there's been any consideration to an ordinance on tree replacement if homeowners moonscape their property. Is that something near and dear to my heart, that we have a water problem? And I know, Mr. McGill, you had mentioned that other towns have these kind of ordinances on the books?
I believe they do.
Yeah, is there anything we could do? Or is there
If I
any-
recall, and I think April had sent me some sample copies from some other towns, but we haven't just gotten to that point yet, to be perfectly honest with you. But we'll take a look at it. I don't have any objection to it, you know, sitting here right now, but it's just something we need to talk about and get on the agenda if we all agree.
Okay, thank you. The second is, in light of the fire on Surfin 18, question arose in my mind is, who is our fire marshal? Do we have one
The
now?
current marshal is Ryan DeLay.
I thought he is no longer part of Belmar. That he
No, he's still here through April 16th.
Okay. And my third comment is with regard to the 5G networks. There was an ordinance that they were looking to pass in, I think it was 2021, to create towers that allow other providers to put their equipment on the same pole. Can we work with Verizon to try to have, I mean, we did, at that time, 2021, because they started suing us, that wasn't pursued. But we don't want every provider to have their own pole, or we could have a forest up there on Ocean Avenue. So I would think that's one of the first things we might look to address, to try to at least minimize the potential problem. I mean, I don't think it's going to shut us, solve Verizon, but are we going to have other people putting poles up?
Mr. McGill can correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I mean, I think, number one, I did read through the settlement agreement, and I think I remember something in there saying that Verizon will permit other carriers to go on their poles, but I don't, Kevin, do you remember what?
Billy, I think they said they could have two carriers.
Two carriers.
Yeah, Verizon and room for one additional carrier.
And an outlet, so we could put up Christmas lights.
Yeah, they're going to put outlets.
I mean, that's really important. Just imagine Christmas lights on the boardwalk.
The thing you have to remember, though, just for everyone, is we are basically in no bargaining position with Verizon. In other words, it's a settlement agreement. We can't force them to do anything unless we were going to go back into court and try to reopen that, which we're not going to do at this point. So, I mean, whatever in that settlement agreement, and I was thinking actually maybe tomorrow I might ask April to post that settlement agreement on our website so everybody can actually see what
I saw we
But
get
the
some
court-
money for every year for the next 20 years, so
Yeah,
that's
it's not much,
so bad.
$270 a poll per year. That's really peanuts when you look at the vast amount of money that Verizon has. But, it's a few crumbs that they throw to the municipalities every once in a while, but, we're all paying for it.
Right.
with
All right,
this.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Pfeiffer, Fifth Avenue. Last year, there were quite a few discussions, like Jody mentioned, about the skate park, but also discussions about the possibility of adding 3 pickleball courts to McCleary Park, fixing the 3 existing courts, and fixing the fencing, which is really leaning badly. As a matter of fact, before I left on a trip, I was gone for about 2 months, we had the windbreaks up, and they got removed. I was told they were removed because the fencing is leaning so much. So my question is, did Belmar apply for the 2022 Monmouth County Open Space Program? And if not, can we discuss looking at doing that this year, which means the grant money would be available in April of 2024?
That I'm going to defer to Kevin, because I remember seeing something about that very recently.
And what we did, because originally it was earmarked for the skate park, but there wasn't enough information at that time. So what we did is just parlay that into the basketball court right by the skate park. So we put the application in for that.
Okay, so we will then find out, I think it is on April 4th, they should be announcing the towns and the amount of money that they approved for. Also at that time, the application will be available, which has to be completed by September 15th usually it is. So what I'd like to propose is that we look at putting it, now the maximum amount is $250,000 that they grant. I don't know if that's the town or if that's separate different items that you are looking to do, like the skate park, one thing, pickleball, bocce ball courts, and fixing the other courts as another grant. But I had met with the previous BA. He came down to look at the courts. He saw the crowds of people that we have down there playing pickleball, and he agreed that we should try and add some more courts. I brought up the possibility of, like 3 years ago, Belmar was really ahead of the curve with pickleball. They took one of the tennis courts, they put in 3 pickleball courts, and that was great. Now, what's happening is from like mid-April to mid-October, we have our own site, it's Team Reach, and it's Belmar AM Pickleball. It's all morning pickleball players. We have 145 people on the site. And we play Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. In the wintertime, if the temperature is above 50 degrees, somebody just puts out, like they did today. We're going to play 1:30 tomorrow. It's going to be sunny, who's coming? It's like 8 people respond to 10 people, you go down and you play. So there is a need for more pickleball courts. We were ahead of the curve, now we're not. In 2021, 2 towns were granted money specifically for pickleball. Wall Township being one of them, and they got $134,000. They have to match it, so they had $268,000 to use to put in pickleball courts. So it really is the fastest growing game in the U.S. right now. And what's changing is the people who are playing it are younger. 3 years ago, it was our senior citizens were playing it. Now you have people in their 30s, their 40s, and now the senior citizens are showing up with their granddaughters and their grandsons who are playing it. So it's very popular. When I go away to Mexico for 2 months, I go to this little town. They have no traffic lights in the town. They have 4 pickleball courts. There's potholes in a lot of the streets, but they have 4 pickleball courts. And they now started restricting how many people can play and charging them. So I just want to get your feedback in terms of, can we get an assessment of what it might cost, what's involved? Could we actually add 3 more pickleball courts there? And perhaps a bocce, and apply for funding to help us get that done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, Kevin and I, or Kevin, or the 3 of us, and Billy will go and take a look at it. Absolutely.
And there might be a difference, business administrator, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the one grant that we applied for was the local recreation improvement grant, I think, which is different than an open space grant, I believe. The grant that came about earlier this year.
That was basketball.
Yeah, so there might be a difference with that. And just as a tennis player, Mr. Pfeiffer.
I'm sorry?
Just as a tennis player, Mr. Pfeiffer.
I know, look, I gave up on trying to take one more year tennis court. But what I can tell you, the St. Rose kids, in 5 years, are going to be playing pickleball. And I played tennis for over 30 years, but pickleball is where it's at right now. So, just so you know, Monmouth County usually allocates about $2 million a year. But in 2021, they actually granted $2.8 million, and 19 towns received money ranging from $48,000 to $250,000. Most of the descriptions are park improvement, but the 2 towns I can mention specifically were for pickleball. And I think when we see on April 4th, when they come out with the grants for 2022, I think you're going to see a lot more towns applying for the funds, or getting the funds for pickleball. So just want to keep us ahead of the curve.
Okay, well, that's why we also need our grants consultant to keep us ahead of the curve of all the other municipalities who are looking for the same pool of money. We need that edge to.
I would also like to add that this is one of the purposes of the Parks Committee that we have, that exists, is to assess the needs of the parks and see how our demographics are changing and see what activities are growing so we can make sure that our parks are sort of optimized to meet our residents' needs. And I think that's something that we really need to have them focus and task them to, have a mission statement to be able to do this.
That would be great. I actually have received a proposal because East Brunswick took 2 of their tennis courts and converted them to 6 pickleball courts. And they did it for $80,000, and they did not have to go out for bid because they used the federal program. That's approved by the federal government. And for 80 grand, they were able to convert these, and they look very nice. But they're not organized like we are here in Belmar. They're like a mess in terms of those people playing. So we're very well organized.
Well, I agree with Councilman Levis, though, too. You always have to look at the big picture also. And I think that's the role of the Parks Committee to really take a look at all of our parks and see what's needed and come up with a plan on how we, can best serve everyone. But we'll definitely look at it. I mean, it's definitely
All right.
something.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Actually, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a heads up, sir, that in the real near future, we will be shutting the pickle courts down for probably a week to make some repairs to the poles that hold the nets up. So, within the close near future, the court's going to be shut down for about a week.
All right. I'll let the crews know that.
Okay.
That's going to be happening. Thank you.
One of the things, if it's okay if I add, I know pickleball is so popular, and we're right across from Cleary Park on the Rhode Island Point part of Belmar, and a concern that continues to be an issue for us and the families that live in that area is the danger in crossing over to that park. And so as more people are finding our hidden gem of McCleary Park, I'd love it if we could figure out maybe some looking into more safety with crossing.
I have to add, we did apply for an open space grant from the county last year but that was for the walking trail around Lake Como.
Questions, comments? You exceeded your limit for tonight. Isn't there an ordinance that says there's two sessions?
Read it the next meeting.
Carry the next meeting? Okay. Oh, what time is it? Still. Gene Kramer, 4th Avenue. I did see that the municipality is posted for applicants for some positions that we have available in town here. And I guess that was in the Co-Star, which still is not, by the way, putting their public notices out to the New Jersey Publishers Association. So the readership, as far as those advertisements for job openings, they're not getting widely circulated beyond the Co-Star by itself. But one thing, I read a couple of the job posting advertisements, and it refers to go to the Belmar webpage and to download the employment application form. I took a quick look at the application form, and I think there's 2 things that perhaps should be added to the standard municipal employee application form. One of them is there's no question on there about veterans. I guess it was at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago. The borough passed a resolution supporting veterans and employment of veterans and veterans-owned businesses and so on. Perhaps just for matrix, there should be a question on the application form: are you a veteran? That's number 1. Number 2, there was a recent resolution passed last year regarding nepotism, and that was imposed upon the borough by its insurance fund carrier. I think perhaps that likewise there should be a question on there as to whether you are related to any of these people that was cited in the resolution.
All right, the second one I would have to check with council, because I don't know if that's appropriate to ask at that point in the process, or if it's later on in the process after you come in for like an interview. So, I mean, that's just a legal point that I would want to be sure we're not violating anything on. The veterans thing, I agree with you. And in any event, I think the positions we're looking for are going to be civil service positions, which would be picked up at that point. But there is no harm in putting that on the application and asking. Again, I don't think there's any prohibition to doing that, so it easily can be added.
Yeah. Regarding nepotism, I have filled out applications before where that is a question, and I'm not aware of any legal problem there. I would just take the wording that was in the resolution. It was fairly broad. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't get hired.
No, I understand.
In fact, that's why we pay human resource people to make those decisions. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. You sure? I'm just teasing. Thank you. Any other comments?
Can I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Green.